Welcome to the Helping Writers Become Authors podcast. I'm KM Weiland, and I am here to take you deep with story theory, writing techniques, and the incredible wisdom of story. I believe story is the greatest power on this earth, and that as writers, we carry the torch of wielding that power with responsibility, passion, and skill. There's no such thing as just a story. Today, it is my honor and my purpose to help you write your best story, astound the world, and maybe change your life. Hello and welcome. You are listening to Juggling Life and Writing, 9 Tips for Maintaining Creative Focus. Balancing the pursuit of creative writing with the demands of daily life is a nuanced challenge. Juggling life and writing isn't easy without strategies that can help us maintain creative focus amid life's myriad distractions. Whether you're dealing with the pressures of work, familial responsibilities, or the never-ending lure of digital devices, writers everywhere face challenges in safeguarding creative time. Writers need tools that help them nurture their creativity while also gracefully handling life's interruptions. Discovering strategies for maintaining creative focus can help you in crafting a fulfilling writing experience, even in the face of life's surprises. One of the most common frustrations of any writer's life is how difficult it can often be to find time to actually write. For those with other jobs that pay the bills or family responsibilities, writing time can slip away all too easily. Even those who write full-time discover their time can get eaten up just as quickly with the same time management problems as before, not to mention the demands of the business side. So, what's a writer to do? Reader Colleen F. Janik asked for tips saying, "How in the world do you manage to stay on track with your books and not allow life to get in the way? There are so many unexpected events involving family members, friends, moving from one location to another. I have books that have been left far behind me in a trail of dust and rubble." Colleen is not alone. Personally, I have lamented throughout my life that there wasn't just one more hour in the day. And yet, every time I juggle my schedule around to find an extra hour, I end up with the same lament sooner than later. Even when you think writing is one of your top priorities, it is shockingly easy to see it slip so far down on the to-do list that days or even weeks pass before you find yourself back at your desk. Cue the frustration and the guilt. There is no quick fix, but there are many perspectives and habits we can cultivate on a daily basis so their effects multiply over time, even when life is at its most demanding and chaotic. Here are 9 tips to get you started. Tip number 1, don't view life and writing as separate. This one is important. So often we mentally divide everything that happens to us into different categories. There is writing, and then there is job, family, health. Whatever is left, we then tend to leave in the big lump that is simply life. Ironically, the life pile is the one we often tend to feel we are missing out on. But life is all there is, my darlings. All the other categories are arbitrary distinctions we use to help us get organized. Although bringing a sense of order to our minds is always a good thing, our vision can become so narrow we miss the forest for the trees. When we despair of juggling life and writing, we're operating in a dualistic mindset that wants to separate the writing, or whatever else, from the life. When something other than writing happens, we suddenly feel we're off track. When we get the opportunity to move to a new state, or we set aside time to celebrate a family member's marriage, or we confront a health crisis, it can feel like we've failed in maintaining our writing goals. Operating from such a sum-zero mindset suggests that to succeed at one thing, even if it is just facing what is necessary, means to fail at something else. And this creates totally unnecessary pressure. This is not to say schedules can't be refined and better habits can't be cultivated, but we might do better to release the idea that we have to control life if we're ever going to be successful at prioritizing our writing. If we give ourselves the opportunity to open ourselves to the true flow of creativity, we realize it is operating not just when we're at our desks, but in every surprising moment of every day. Tip number 2, identify your pain points. Really, the entire challenge of juggling life and writing is about coming into flow with ourselves. One of the first steps is to consciously map whatever is creating resistance that blocks our ability to keep writing effortlessly within the flow of our daily schedules. Start by identifying your pain points. What do you feel is obviously blocking your ability to be consistent with your writing time? The answers may be big events that are currently demanding huge chunks of your time and attention. But the answers may also focus on little things, like giving in to the temptation of social media, or being too tired in the evenings to write even though you do have time. Make a list. It can help to imagine what your ideal day would look like, one where making time for writing would feel effortless. What exists in your real life that is notably missing from this ideal day? Those are probably your most potent pain points. Tip number 3, figure out where writing fits in your priorities. So after examining your pain points, consider your priorities. Start generally. What's most important in your life? You may list things like family, pets, travel, and writing. And then get more granular and make a list of your daily priorities. What tasks are non-negotiable? Write down everything you can think of, including eating lunch, picking your kids up from school, and your favorite way to relax. Now, get real with yourself and consider where writing ranks in this list. You may find it is at the top, but you may also find it's way down at the bottom. And there's no answer that's better than another. The only thing that's important here is that you are radically honest with yourself. Make a list that reflects how you truly feel, not how you think you should feel. Once you've got the list, you can identify the big pieces in your life and start planning accordingly. If writing is one of those big pieces, then it deserves to be prioritized. If it is not, then you can give yourself permission to wait until some of those top-ranking big pieces, such as moving or helping with a wedding, are no longer on the to-do list. Or you can start creating a more non-traditional writing schedule that plans your writing around the things on your list that are, in fact, more important to you. Tip number 4, take care of your nervous system. Time management is really stress management. This is particularly important to a discussion of writing because stress is a total mood killer when it comes to creativity. Not only can an overburdened schedule squeeze writing out of your day altogether, it can also mean that even when you do sit down to write, you arrive at your desk with an empty tank and nothing much to say. As per tip number 1, one of the dangers of trying to view writing as something separate from the rest of life is that we can forget that all the rest of life supports our writing. Above all, if we are to nurture our writing time and creative spark, we must take care of our nervous systems. Fostering healthy time management and creating daily schedules that mitigate stress are crucial in successfully integrating writing into our daily lives. More than that, any task on our list that focuses on taking care of ourselves, and really, don't they all, is a task that instead of being in competition with our writing time, is in support of it. Eating healthy, which includes grocery shopping and meal prepping, staying fit, and nurturing our relationships, they're all crucial factors in creating our most creative life possible. Tip number 5, assign the right amount of time for writing. One of the reasons we might sometimes fail to meet daily or weekly writing goals is because we've set the bar unrealistically high. Although it sounds great to be able to write for 2 hours or more a day, this simply isn't practical for the demands of every schedule. Look at your list of priorities and pain points and realistically assess how much time you actually have to comfortably spend on writing on a regular basis. Everyone's different, and there is no right amount of time. One of the single most self-nurturing flexes I've introduced to my own life is to stop being idealistic about my scheduling. Not only is it important to assess with reasonable accuracy how much time each task in your day will take, and therefore how much time will be left over for writing, It is also important to tally all the little time suckers that probably aren't on your list. It's so easy to think, oh, I can do such and such in 2 minutes or less, and then to do 30 or more of these little things throughout the day, and then wonder where you lost that extra hour. Tip number 6, always keep your toe in the water. For some people, the right amount of writing time might indeed be several hours every day, or it might be several hours once a week, or it might be 15 minutes every day, or even just half an hour once a week. If writing is indeed a priority for you, then what is most important is creating a schedule that is, first and foremost, achievable. No matter how good it looks on paper, if you can't make it happen long term, then it's really not all that productive or effective, is it? Second, you want to create a schedule that balances your most realistic amount of productivity with the amount of regularity you need to maintain creative continuity from writing session to writing session. I call this keeping your toe in the creative waters. For those who are able to write every single day, this will take care of itself. But for those whose best writing schedule spreads out their writing sessions, just make sure you're not losing your creative thread. If a more time-intensive writing schedule is hard for you, then just know it is totally enough to write less frequently. It doesn't make you less of a writer. Tip number 7, daily scheduling and habit stacking. As we all know, the daily schedule is really where the magic happens. This is such a personal plan because everyone is different. We all have different relationships to time itself, as well as different strengths and weaknesses when it comes to routines and habits. Understanding yourself and what makes you feel most creative is the key to creating a successful daily schedule. So take your list of priorities and pain points and use it to map your day. The goal is not to create a concrete schedule that can never be altered, but to create a structure that can help you line up necessary tasks with their most productive timing within the day. I live by my schedule, but I am constantly tweaking it. Habit stacking is a great way to optimize how much you can accomplish, freeing up extra time so you can fit in good stuff like writing. Habit stacking involves integrating a new habit into an existing routine by associating it with an established behavior. So instead of creating entirely separate habits, identify tasks you already do regularly and leverage those routines to seamlessly introduce new habits. For example, if you need to take supplements or medications, you can link that to meal times. If you want to get in more reading and or exercise, you can listen to audiobooks while you walk. Tip number 8, minimizing distractions. The goal is to build a life that is spent primarily on high-quality activities, such as writing. To make time for these high-quality activities, we have to constantly clear the junk activities that suck our time. Everyone's distractions are different, but what we all share is that distractions are everywhere. Digital distractions in particular are insidious and must be dealt with consciously and rigorously on a regular basis. I've previously talked about this in an episode from 2020 called Creativity versus Distraction: 13 Tips for Writers in the Age of the Internet. To minimize distractions, we must first become aware of our distractions. Once we've brought consciousness to whatever is wasting our time, we can work to either eliminate it, for example, unsubscribe from emails, turn your phone to airplane mode, put the dog outside, or address whatever underlying motivation is driving our desire to continue it. That is, scrolling Instagram helps numb feelings we'd have to face if we did yoga or wrote that chapter instead. And tip number 9, have grace. Your life is your story. Cultivating the discipline to optimize daily schedules and create more space for our writing is perhaps the hallmark of a serious writer. But the idea that these schedules should never be interrupted or appended is deeply unkind to ourselves. Life will happen. Life should happen. And it should be embraced in all its messy joy and tragedy. After all, isn't that messy drama what and why we write? The key to all of this is really about creating a lifestyle that mitigates stress, so we have the wherewithal to do what we want to do. The foundation of a low-stress life is the ability to have grace not only with ourselves, but with every circumstance we encounter. The balancing point between discipline and flexibility is where the magic happens. Finding this magical point is sometimes less about forcing ourselves to create better schedules and more about allowing ourselves to accept, feel, and process the interruptions as they come. We will all go through seasons of more writing and less writing. That is inevitable, and in acceptance, that is beautiful. I will leave you with Henry David Thoreau's words, "How vain it is to sit down to write when you have not stood up to live." But before you stand up, I hope you'll stop by my site and talk to me about this topic. What are your best tips for juggling life and writing? Stop by the community and share it with all of us. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Helping Writers Become Authors. I hope you'll stop by the site for a full transcript of this episode and to join in the conversation in the comments. Tune in for next week's episode, where we'll continue to explore all things writing and storytelling. If you'd like to support the podcast, it always means a ton when you take a moment to leave a quick rating or review on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or Spotify. To stay updated on all the latest content I create for you, the best way is to join my mailing list at helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com/mailing list. You'll also immediately gain access to lots of free resources, including my books, Crafting Unforgettable Characters and 5 Secrets of Story Structure. For real-time connection with me, more writing advice, and behind-the-scenes glimpses, follow me on Instagram at authorkmwyland. A heartfelt thank you to each one of you for your support and enthusiasm, and especially those of you who support my work on patreon.com/kmwyland. You help make my site, this podcast, and so many other resources available to writers everywhere. So until next week, keep writing, keep dreaming, and most importantly, keep being true to your stories. Thank you for being part of Helping Writers Become Authors.